Here's your wrestling news for July 6, 2022, and we're kicking off today with AEW, who last month teamed with New Japan to host their Forbidden Door Super Show, showcasing some of the best names from both promotions. Forbidden Door proved to be a success with fans, earning both companies a small fortune, and now Tony Khan is ready to team up with his fiercest rivals. Well, speaking on The Ringer's Masked Man show, the AEW president talked about one day working with WWE and isn't against the idea. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, AEW and WWE doing a joint show, but I would be open to talking about that type of thing. It's not crazy, but it's a bold prediction. While WWE doesn't typically play well with others, they did allow Impact's Mickie James in this year's Women's Royal Rumble and had several AEW stars appear on last week's Raw's celebration of John Cena. With Stephanie McMahon at the helm, a crossover show with AEW could indeed be a possibility, as at least one side would be happy to host what would be one of wrestling's biggest events. An AEW-WWE crossover would certainly be a huge deal, and Brian Pillman Jr. is already on board. On Twitter, Pillman suggested the Flyin' Brian Cruiserweight Classic, named after his late father, and suggested that this tournament wouldn't just include WWE and AEW talent, but New Japan could be invited along too. At 240 pounds himself, Pillman said that while he wouldn't wrestle, he'd be happy to officiate matches which, in his own words, would slap. WWE's 2016 Cruiserweight Classic was a highlight of that year's shows, but it has yet to see a sequel, but the next high-flying tournament could be even bigger than before. Over to WWE now, as Logan Paul made serious moves last week by signing with the company, inking a lucrative contract that will keep him around for years. It's believed that the deal signed with Stephanie McMahon and Triple H present is a 3-year deal, and a match at Summerslam is expected to take place. Fans won't have to wait until the biggest party of the summer to see the Maverick, however, as Paul is being advertised for the July 25th edition of Raw. The show will serve as the go-home Raw before SummerSlam, and Paul is just the latest big name confirmed for the show. Ronda Rousey and undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns have been advertised for the July 25th Raw, which will air from WWE's old stomping ground of Madison Square Garden. WWE is doing all they can to make the return to the Garden a memorable one, and that includes having the popular YouTuber/boxer/WWE superstar in town. NXT 2.0 is WWE's developmental ground, allowing superstars to hone their craft and test new characters, and now one established name will be having a much different persona on screen. During last night's Great American Bash, it was revealed that A-Kid, the first NXT UK Heritage Cup champion, is going by the name Axiom and seems to be something of a math wizard as part of his new gimmick. Fans couldn't see Axiom's face, but they could immediately recognize him from his accent and the back of his head, which was shown on screen. In the promo, Axiom spoke about growing up as a very bright child, adding that he was often ostracized for his incredibly high intelligence. Prior to signing with WWE, Axiom worked in promotions including Chikara and PWG, but his new character wasn't the only oddity from the show. During the Great American Bash, a QR code was displayed, and when fans scanned it, it took them to a page with 3 numbers, 8, 10, 11. Fans have already began speculating that this could be related to Triple H, who is back working full-time with WWE, and who fans hope takes over the reins of NXT again. Whatever 8, 10, 11 is, it's certainly piqued the interest of fans, so we'll have to see what this means down the line. Before Cody Rhodes got injured, the American Nightmare was one of WWE's most featured stars, and has had plenty to say about his career and pro wrestling. Cody's return to WWE at WrestleMania was one of the biggest comebacks of the past decade, and there is a method to his actions. During a recent episode of Chevrolet's Grit and Glory show, Rhodes was asked by Montez Ford why exactly he came back, and said that his answer was somewhat arrogant. Cody said that for the past 2 to 3 years, it's felt like nobody could touch him in the ring, and admitted that he has something of a chip on his shoulder. Rhodes said he has extra motivation now to become a WWE World Champion, and according to all reports so far, it seems like Cody's time with a world title will come eventually. The American Nightmare said he hopes his arrogant answer lights a fire in other wrestlers, as he believes he's the best and is ready to be proven wrong. Unfortunately, Cody can't prove just how good he is right now, as he's continuing to recover from surgery, but expect even bigger things for Rhodes once he's back on our screens. Later this month, WWE will host their annual Summerslam event, and the card for WWE's biggest party of the summer is coming together nicely. For weeks, Riddle has been engaged in a feud with Seth Rollins, which started after the original Bro failed to dethrone Roman Reigns for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Now fans will see the Architect and Riddle face off again, as on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer reports that the plan is for them to face off at SummerSlam. Rollins has been on the losing end of most of his feuds as of late, so we'll have to see if the former Universal Champion can turn things around when he faces Riddle at SummerSlam. Both Rollins and Riddle appeared on this week's Raw, but one name was conspicuous by their absence. Jimmy Smith was nowhere to be seen or heard during this week's Raw, but his absence from the commentary desk wasn't a punishment. It's been explained that Smith was away on vacation and is expected to be back on the show during next week's episode. In his place, Kevin Patrick called the action on Raw and did an impressive job considering it was his first outing in the role, but expect Smith, who has been popular with fans, to be back next week. In 2019, boxing star Tyson Fury made his debut for WWE, getting a countout win over Braun Strowman at that year's Crown Jewel event. One of the biggest names in boxing, WWE getting the Gypsy King was certainly a huge score for the promotion, and Fury may soon be back on our screens. According to Give Me Sport, Fury has been in talks with WWE regarding a potential return this summer, and while nothing has been made official, sources say there's a very good chance of this happening. One source said that Fury's return would tie in with Clash at the Castle, which is WWE's biggest premium live event in the UK since SummerSlam '92. As for who Fury could face, the most likely candidate is Drew McIntyre, as both have spent the past few years teasing a match on UK soil. With that said, McIntyre has also challenged Roman Reigns to an undisputed WWE Universal title match for the show, so it remains to be seen what plans take place for Fury should a deal be reached. When AEW signed Awesome Kong, fans were excited, as the former Knockouts champion was one of the biggest names signed to the promotion at the time. Kong debuted at the inaugural Double or Nothing event, but rarely wrestled for the company, and left in June 2021 when her contract expired. During an interview with Chris Van Vliet, Kong was asked about her time in AEW and Brandy Rhodes' Nightmare Collective faction, and what exactly went wrong for her run. Here's the thing, we have a lot of leaders that have an idea of a perception, they have a vision, and everyone only gets a little piece of that vision into the picture, into the art piece. Sometimes it don't work. And the thing is, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing the crew over there at AEW, especially since we were just up and running. We are all new executives and we are trying to think outside the box and really give it to y'all, you know what I mean? Give you something new, something that hasn't been seen. We were trying to give you something you hadn't seen, but I felt unheard. I wasn't in control, you know what I mean? All I could do is say, hey, I have this idea of X, Y, and Z, and I couldn't get in the room where final decisions are made. And believe me, honey, Kia stalked that room. I would stay there after the big meetings, like pick up the water bottles and the cups like, you need me to go? Okay. I tried to get it to the last meeting where the decisions were made, but I never had a chance to. And after a while, I'm like, okay, so that's just not gonna happen, so I'm not gonna push it, you know what I mean? Kong also said that there were a select group of people who always made the decisions, and that the choices being made about her did not involve Kong herself. When you obviously see that this is who they're comfortable making decisions, and that's not a read, that's not a critique, but that's who was comfortable making decisions. And so it's like, what do you do? It's out of my control. If I had control, give me 15 minutes of Kia Hour. Kia's 25 minutes of fame. Go out there and steal me the show from them boys. You, and you. Nyla, go steal the show from the boys. Kong officially retired from wrestling at the NWA Empower event last year and has been inducted into Impact's Hall of Fame. And it goes to show that despite the success several established names have had in AEW, the all-elite company doesn't work out for everyone. Back to WWE now, as Bron Breakker retained his NXT title against Cameron Grimes at the Great American Bash and paid tribute to his father Rick and Uncle Scott Steiner in the process. For the show, Breakker wore a star-spangled patriotic singlet, which matched what the Steiner brothers wore at the 1993 Survivor Series. On that night, the Steiners, Lex Luger, and The Undertaker, known as the All-Americans, defeated the Foreign Fanatics, Crush, Quebecer Jacques, Ludwig Borga, and Yokozuna. It was a cool tribute for Breakker to give, and isn't the first time Bron has paid tribute to his wrestling heritage, as last name or not, the NXT champ is proud to be a Steiner. And we're ending with more from Breakker, as the show was another impressive win for the second-generation superstar, but he didn't have long to enjoy it, as post-match, he was attacked by JD Mcdongah. Mcdongah, who fans previously knew as Jordan Devlin, blindsided Breakker on the ramp and closed the show saying he was a necessary evil. Mcdongah had been the subject of video vignettes for weeks, confirming his new name and character, and it's clear that the former NXT Cruiserweight Champion is going to be the subject of a huge push. Whether that means Mcdongah is the one to dethrone Bron Breakker, that remains to be seen, but the debut of this new character made for an impactful end to NXT Great American Bash. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.